been a writer for a long time, band leader for a long time.
Yeah, it has been a long time, but this all started because I had to.
Economics?
That was not the commercial side as much as the fact that, when you throw economics in, I had to earn a living. I was kind of like turned out on the street in a way. It's like, first I was in a band and then I was gone.
Yeah. Talking about Mahavishnu?
Yeah. I didn't know, and I thought I would be playing in that band for another year. I knew that the other guys would be gone. And I was told directly by John that I was in the band. That was in the February of the year that the band was disbanded. Next thing I know, I was gone. And so I said, well, what can I do to continue? And because I had an incredible vehicle. I mean, I just been playing in the band for about 2.5 years, and we did almost 700 shows. Okay, so that's a lot of exposure.
Yeah.
Okay. So I thought, okay, let's look at the commercial aspects. If I make a record, which I fought tooth and nail to get a chance to do, and at that time you could scream, jump up and down, and they'd go, okay, here's a few bucks, go do it, just get away from me, and so they gave me about, which is like gold these days, $30,000 budget, right? A $30,000 budget. 73. In 73.
That's a lot of money.
For me, that wasn't very much money. Can you imagine? 100 times that was the amount of money it took to make Asia, Steely Dan. $700,000. Okay.
Production aspect is completely different, though.
But still, that's a budget. And
sure.
Now check this out. I had to pay that back. They didn't. It was like they didn't have to worry about it. It was already taken care of because the company believed that they would make their money back, which they did. But this isn't the time when budgets were running around. You could have an artist in the studio for 6 months, lockout, living in the studio with engineer, people working so that just in case a morsel would show up, they'd make 8 songs in 6 months. Come on, man. I made this record in 10 days, and traveled to England to mix it, including and coming back in 10 days' time. All in that budget, $32,000.
First album was Spectrum, right?
That was Spectrum.
Yeah.
Artwork, everything, boom. It was just something that happened, I didn't know. It was like
just do it.
I had my pre-production. I'd done pre-production. I rehearsed. I rehearsed Bolan and everybody together, and it came. I had the material. I was trying out musicians. Everything was under that budget, and I came back $10,000 in the profit from the. Oh yeah, of course it was for me, because otherwise I wasn't getting anything, and it wasn't intending to get paid. It was just something actually I was doing for my mom and dad. It was like, I'll make a record. This is my calling card. As I remember DJ Lockwood telling me a few years ago, he said, "Yeah, man, this is something you can give to people, or you can even work it into the budget of your live date, where everyone has a number, and this becomes a ticket to get into the gig." And it was profit. It was a prophecy, because in essence, that's all the record is now. When we ask people to buy a couple of bucks, spend a couple of bucks more for the CD, it's to make another CD. It's not, hopefully we're not that bad off that we have to use that to eat. But some cats need to survive. But I mean, the whole objective is to be clear enough so that you can take that material, sell it, and put it into a production and bring more material out if the people really are enjoying it.
Yeah.
And the new format now is not a CD, it's a flash drive, So it's just going that way.
And how about the production side, when you did the more orchestral, like the BC album, with orchestra and stuff?
Well, that was a situation that again was not. That was a George. I forget his name now. We used to be the vice president of jazz at CBS, and the trombone player from the Crusaders, Wayne Henderson. He was employed to produce me for Columbia. And it was like a good and bad situation for me because they chose a lot of the material, or they chose the way that my material would be treated. They were looking for me to do something
Tons of arrangements.
commercial, yeah. And the arrangements were actually my arrangements that I had to work with somebody on in LA in terms of the larger side. So they incorporate like an orchestrator for strings or something like that, but it's based on my themes. You know, and it was the brass side was based on what I put through. You know, and I thought, well, hey, but by then I was already well on my way. Going back to the beginning, I was like playing. I made Spectrum with 2 fingers, like learning how to type on a typing machine. I just really was determined to get that music onto a disc. So it was also with the idea that I had no one else to help me. I was so envious of John and Rick Laird, who's a wonderful writer. Jan Hammer is all encompassing. You know, I wasn't that familiar with Jerry Goodman's writing at the time, but the other 3 guys I looked at and marveled at them. I thought they were amazing, and I wanted to contribute, but I also knew that I would need help from them. I felt like it was like with Lenny White when you know he puts out a record. If it's not for Stanley and Chick and those guys giving him the support that he needs to get his ideas across, he doesn't get it, you know, at that time. And for me, I didn't have it at all. And I saw all of the conflict and stuff going on, and I went, you know, I don't need to add to this. I'm happy actually playing the music as it is right now. For me, John was like top. You know, the ideas and all of that, no problem.
Any chances doing a reunion thing? Like
no, that won't happen. No, we won't do that. The closest that would come to, and it has already, and it could potentially happen again if the moon and the stars were in the right place, is just John and I together. Just John. Maybe Jerry, because I know he's enthusiastic about doing something. Rick has the reason why.
Jan Hammer?
No, I don't see it. It's been a long time since John played live, and I think that day is gone. I could be wrong. It's just my opinion, but I don't see it happening, man.
You'd be into it, right?
He'd need to be into it, you know, and that's asking a lot. Although I'll say this, we would never play like we played then. You know, it's like asking Led Zeppelin to come back and do everything exactly what they did. No. It would be different. And the imbalance in terms of musical proficiency is great. You know, so I don't see. I mean, Jan doesn't want to go on stage, or he would have been a lot more than he has. So he's not very comfortable doing that, and I think that should be respected. Jerry is always possible to do. Rick needs to learn to play the bass again. He hasn't played very much, maybe in about 30 or something years. So he's just, but he continues to be a wonderful artist, visually more than anything else. Last I heard, he had he continues to take pictures and get gallery showings and stuff like this. Doesn't mean he couldn't do it, but we'd have to figure out how to make that work. But so it wouldn't be the same band, you know. But the duet with John that would be possible, since I've done it already. I did it at Monterey about a year ago or something.
And how about your work as a sideman? You know, like when you toured together, you were with Peter Gabriel with the 3-drum, bass drum, kit and stuff. How did that come about?
Well, he asked me. I used to hang out there a lot. I was.
You're involved with W.O.M.A.D also, right?
I was, but not at the moment. I haven't done anything. As far as I know, the whole configuration of that company has changed. I haven't done anything with them for now 3 years, or more. I see Peter is working a few select dates in South America come the end of the year. But I don't know much more about what he's doing. And most of it is by himself, from what I hear.
That was fun seeing you play in that configuration.
Oh, I loved it.
Group,
yeah, I loved it. I was like pressed into action because Manu Katché had some from what I understood, some personal problems and couldn't make it. And it was a great challenge for me. I only wish I had more time to have tried to fit into his gloves, because I had to write. There were no parts written, so I had to write all of the parts out, and for all the songs myself, and get that all organized. And it was like just writing. What are we doing, and trying to remember things, and where things change. And
but don't you like that kind of?
Oh, that's no problem for me. Yeah. That part. But the thing is that you never 100%.
Yeah.
At the very end, Peter said, "Yeah, you're about 85%." Unfortunately, I couldn't continue to work with him because I had to segue into another project with Stanley, Clarke, and them, and I missed the Woodstock project. That was, I really would have wanted to make it. I would have ditched the whole tour with Stanley, quite frankly, if I could have done that. But there's also the question of doing the right thing. We had it all set up. I missed it. But all in all, great experiences, all the way around.
Coming back to equipment, are you as involved with Yamaha like you were with Tama as far as experiment new equipment stuff? Tama did the gong drum.
I'm not. I know this is a time now, from what I feel, that the best I can do to help Yamaha is to try to make use of the equipment that I already have. I feel it's not like Yamaha Corporation is hurting overall, but in the music area, I think they're not so apt to be injecting a lot of money into that, into this particular area. I could be wrong. So, but yet at the same time, they've been very, very helpful and effective with me for who I am and what I do, which is mostly, I just run around the world. So whenever I can get them, or whenever, and they can help me to have a set to play on, I go to them first. It's not always that way, because they just don't have it, and you can't draw blood from a stone. If it's not there, it's not there. You have to have some backup. You have to find some other ways to do things. But I have to work, But whenever they are, and always the product is always spot on. I think it's the legacy of Hagiwara. It's almost running itself. The equipment is generally for these kind of drums top level. And I mean, this is a drum set I haven't seen in 3 years, and it works. Boom.
Always playing the wood rims?
Not always.
No.
Not always.
But you like it for the click sound?
Very, very mellow
shot,
sound. Mellow sound. The rim shot is easier on my ears. I approach playing the drums in a different way, in a more effective way. I find that all these little things tend to help me to pace myself through a show when I can feel more at one with the kid.
And first time I heard you was Mahavishnu 289.
Vital Transformation.
Vital Transformation.
Okay, yeah. It's somebody out of his mind. But actually, the whole approach to playing all those kind of patterns has always been about phrasing. It's never been about counting. Although
you got the riff in your head, and
and you repeat it, but you also play permutations of it. So it's always the same thing, bada bada bada. But anything else in the front, it's open season. As long as you get that other part right, chances are you'll be all right. And then again, now it's about selectivity. What do you play when? How involved do you play at certain times in the music? Intensity. The question of intensity versus volume versus speed. All these things come into question as part of your ability to play musically.
But the thing that always impresses me is your range of dynamics, precision and dynamics.
Again, yeah. Very important.
Just perfect.
Very, very important, and cannot be good enough. It's always, it's about the human factor. We don't speak monotonally, so we should never play monotonally. We should never play at the same speed, same volume. It's unnatural.
It's monotonous.
There you go. You run into that as well. And who wants to, because the listener, as much as there are many of us who say, we don't need an audience, yes we do. And it starts with us. If we don't like what we sound like, we're in serious trouble. So there we are. This will take a while. Drumming is going to be very, very, very important. And so therefore, we're going to have to think about what we do and learn to think about it before we do it. We have to play everything up here in our minds before we play them through the drums. If you have no concept, it's over.